Hello, everyone. I'm Amber Fortune, and welcome to Music Mondays at the Lab. We're here at beautiful Montgomery County Community College campus, where we get to speak to a phenomenal guest today and also talk about where people behind the sound tell their real stories. Tonight's guest has shaped records, artists, and cultures across decades. Grammy-nominated engineer, producer, educator, David Ivory. So hi, David. How you doing today?
Good.
That's good. Thank you so much for meeting with us here at the lab today.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Greatly appreciated as well. So let's just dig right into it. Before the Grammys, platinum records, and legendary artists, what was the exact moment you realized engineering could change your life?
That's a good question. Well, I started, to be honest, when I was 14 playing in bars, playing guitar in bars. So I was really on the track of being a musician, guitar player mainly. And I would take lessons downtown with like renowned jazz guitarists like Steve Giordano and all that. And I got to a point where I was at a crossroad. I had a little studio in the basement of the house we were renting. I had a band and all that stuff, and we were playing. And then, it came to a point where I started recording a lot. And I just, and the thing was, I started recording with a lot of really good musicians. And I was surrounded by a lot of good musicians, and I thought to myself, wow, I could be in a whole lot of bands if I wanted to be a producer instead of just one band. So it kind of got me excited about working with people. And since I was in cover bands for years before that happened, I knew how to do harmonies and arrangements and all that stuff. So it kind of just folded right into like, wow, I think I want to engineer and produce. And that's kind of how it all started happening. And then I sort of stopped playing as much. I mean, I still play, but with bands, and really started focusing on engineering and producing.
Nice. So you basically, instead of like just focusing on one specific thing, you actually broaden the net, and it brings everything back to you.
Yeah, I played a lot, and I did a lot of gigging and a lot of original gigs. I was in an original band in Philly, played all the cabarets and all that. So I had a lot of experience with even the business, working in New York. I was signed to a publishing deal in New York. So I had a lot of that kind of other knowledge, and it kind of really worked with new bands. So I was able to really help them a lot, and that's kind of how I just kind of got into it. Plus, it was really a lot of fun because you became a member of each band kind of as you worked with them, so it was kind of cool.
That's awesome. What would you consider a defining moment as a up-and-coming musician or artist?
Well, I guess the defining moment, there was probably a whole bunch of them, kind of, in a way. But as far as a new artist goes, well, when I first met Lizzie Hale, I was at a music conference in Harrisburg, and she came walking down. I think I was the Grammy president or something at that time. And we had like a table or something there at this conference. And I saw her and her brother come walking down. And I just thought to myself, well, I hope this girl is good, because she looks great. She had everything, the goth look, the whole bit. And of course, she's amazing and sings. And now, 25 years later, she's packing the, stadiums, So that was a defining moment of like finding somebody, taking years to develop them, getting them signed. That was really from zero to getting them signed. So that was pretty incredible.
As an engineer, producer, or educator, what would you consider emotional anchor in regards to your artistry with working with others?
Emotional anchor. Well, the one thing is definitely trying to be as calm and as possible. In other words, try not to have a lot of highs and lows, because that could really get in your way. Because if you get really excited, sometimes you got to get really down. And I feel as a producer, you want to the artists will go through that enough. They'll go through their ups and downs enough from so many reasons. So I feel that as a producer and engineer, you're the one who has to kind of keep it in a constant way, in a way that you can get emotional with it, but not have it take control. So I think that's a really big thing as far as engineering and producing goes, which is like, you try to keep that even balance, because there's so many outside forces that affect a band or an artist. So you don't want you want that to, when they walk in the studio, you want that to disappear.
So basically stay grounded in a
Yeah,
sense.
for sure.
That makes sense. What was the first mistake you made in the studio that almost cost you a career? And what did that teach you that still guides you with those principles to this day?
Well, I never had a moment that was going to cost me my career, that's for sure, thank goodness. But I did have a couple failures, that's for sure, you know, and if you think you're not going to have a failure in your life, you're kidding yourself. So I guess basically, I remember one time back in the days of tape, and this is really where a lot of problems happen with tape. I'm recording a choir downtown, live event, you know, no overdubs, can't do it later, right? And same story, you know, I'm recording them and I'm looking at my tape and I'm recording them and I'm looking at my tape and the tape runs out and the choir's still going. It was terrible. So I missed a good portion of that, and needless to say, that was not really a good look. But I got to say, it was only a couple of those things, very few of those things, but it was funny, it's always had to do with tape in some way, whether the machine broke or the tape curled or some weird thing. Tape was definitely an amazing format, but definitely had its share of drama.
Very true, very true. So, like moving forward from that situation, what did it teach you or show you as a guiding principle in regards to
to
that?
be super prepared, even more prepared than I thought I was. Extra tape. You know, in the beginning you think, well, you know, it's not going to be that, you know, whatever, but, you know, you got to do it, you know. And again, that's learning. So that was early in my career, and you know, you got to go through stuff like that. You know, got to make mistakes to get better.
True.
That's how I feel.
I have the saying that says there is no such thing as a loss. There's only a lesson.
Absolutely.
And when you learn that lesson from a preconceived loss, then you know how to build upon it later on.
Absolutely. I totally agree. It's all lessons, and all things happen to me for a reason, I feel. And it just helps you grow.
Amen. Sigma Sound Studios is legendary,
Sure
but
is.
legends are not built on comfort. What did that environment force you to learn the hard way, like diving straight on in?
Yeah, I did dive straight on in, and I did have a professional studio for 10 years prior to that in Royersford when I left, so I definitely was in the studio business for sure. But going to Sigma really elevated the professionalism. Because Sigma was basically the creme de la creme of studios. It was certainly the finest production, finest engineering facility there was. In fact, probably one of the top studios in the world at that time, in the 80s and 90s for sure. So that's why so many musicians would go there, because it was so amazing. I mean, Michael Jackson went there and he was signed to Motown in LA, and he's in Philly. So that tells you something. Bottom line is, it really showed me a great, it upped my ante, it upped my professionalism, and that was the best thing that happened to me at Sigma. Besides meeting all these great people, I mean, you know, I met everybody, and the beauty of Sigma was they had a coffee machine, they had all the coffee and stuff in one area, so you could be in separate studios, but everybody ended up at the coffee machine. So that was the best, you know, that's where I met Patty and everybody, you know, at the Sigma coffee machine. So it was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Let me ask you this question, David. What separates someone who knows the software from a true engineer?
Well, knowing software is a technical thing, and it's really important. Engineering has a lot to do with a lot of things. Like, if you learn software, you know how to use it, you know how it works. An engineer needs to take that and then incorporate that into the product that they're making. So obviously any artist is only going to have so much technology, software, and the rest of it is artistry and how you capture sound and how you make them comfortable and how you get the right microphone for their voice and all these other things. So that's certainly a big part of it. And I always say, if you learn a piece of gear, it's a great way to get a gig, because a lot of engineers don't know all the software. They can't, because it's coming out every day, and there's MIDI software, there's triggering software, there's sound acoustic software. So like there's no way one person can keep that all up to date. So I always say to new people coming in, learn a really piece of gear that it's kind of complicated that could be an asset to an engineer. And then you get into the fold. So I don't know if that quite answered your question, but the bottom line is software is part of it, but the engineer is the one who really, even with the producer, they have to translate what the producer's saying. Engineer is a very intrinsic, intense role in a way, because there's a lot going on, and you're kind of in it all the time. The producer's in and out, the artist's in and out, but the engineer is there all the time.
Always going.
They're not in and out, so that's the difference, I think. And being a producer engineer, a lot of times in a lot of capacities, was good for me because I could work faster.
That makes sense.
Because instead of explaining things and explaining techniques to some other person, it just seemed to work a little better for me that way.
That makes sense. That leads me to my next question. If we stripped away all the plugins and tech, what part of your ear actually makes the difference?
So if we stripped away all the technology, you're saying?
Yep, stripped away the technology, the enhancements that makes it easier on our audio to visionary components work better. Let me just say it like this. When we get back to basics and we didn't have all the tech in the gear, what would you rely on mostly to help you enhance the quality of audio?
The song, to be honest with you. Because once you have the song and the singer for the song, everything else is downhill from there. Because that's the hardest part. You could have a good song and a terrible singer. It's not going to happen. You could have a great singer and not a great song, and it's still not going to happen. So without all the technology and all that stuff, piano or acoustic guitar, singing, that's where it all starts, with that song and that interpretation of those lyrics from the artist.
Gotcha. Just to follow up on that a little bit, some people are able to break down music in its separate components just by hearing it. What is something that you say you rely on heavily when you hear a song or put together a masterpiece? Do you break those components down individually, or do you have it all formulated in one and then deconstruct it?
Both. To be honest with you, I start with an idea, and because of my experience from listening to, from being around for a long time, I start thinking about that, and I think of the ideas, but I also think of the artist, because I could have the best ideas in the world, but if it's not going to match the way that artist is going to be or wants to present themselves, then those ideas might not work. A lot of times it's conversations before you even pick what you're going to do, because you really want to make sure that you're with the artist in the same kind of wavelength. So you're not going in one direction and they're going in another.
Right.
So once you get all that together, then you can start kind of bringing things around. And then what I like doing is slowly developing it, meaning that we get the basics, we get the arrangement of the song, and then we see what happens. So that we can kind of be a little bit fluid. It's not like, this has got to be like this has got to be like this. Some of those things, yeah. You got to have great drumming, you got to have a great rhythm section, no doubt about it. But other stuff, as you bring things in, it's going to be up to that creative flow with the artist's intentions in mind, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Let me ask you this question, David. What's a technique you use that younger engineers overlook? Something you learned along in the analog era that still wins today?
Listening.
Ah.
A lot of people can hear. Listening is a whole other story. And I think that listening, and again, I'm going to sound old or whatever, but listening to the masters really helps a lot. And not just for their sonic quality, but for that too, but just for their emotion, for what they could do with limited tracking, what could be done with just sheer talent. Those are the kind of things that really listening is all about, because if you're really a good listener, you can pick the right tone for things, you can get the right mix, you can understand where your frequencies are laying and how you're recording so they don't get in each other's way. that kind of thing even. I mean, you know, if you put a lot of things in the same frequency, it's going to be hard to mix that. You have to have that idea of how to move things around so that whole three-dimensional mix and vision comes to play. So just really be able to listen and really critical listen to things it sounds funny, but it's...
So listening to absorb and to understand versus listening to just basically react.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Yeah, listening, instead of just listening for bob in your head, and if it's really in the groove,
Right.
like what's making it? What's that 16th note thing? And why is that one little shaker doing this thing here? And because that's really making a big difference, even though I can barely hear it. Those kind of things are really important.
Well, that leads me to my next question. Thank you
go.
for that. So, not everyone can make a record feel timeless. Anyone can learn how to use Pro Tools, of course, right?
Sure.
But what separates a technician from a true engineering genius?
Well, I'm not sure about genius. I just know that engineering is again, going back to like with the artists, like great example. When we were doing the Roots early on, young band at the time, brand new, right? Cutting vocals. It was very difficult for them to cut vocals in front of a static microphone. Why? Because they were always rapping. This is what they were used to. So setting up a microphone with a pop filter and all that they could actually hold changed the whole dynamic of how they were rhyming and how that track became what it was. And as a regular engineer, you'd go, oh, well, that's a 58. You can't use that microphone. You got to get a nice $5,000 sit in front of it. But the reality was, in front of that $5,000 mic, the performance was not as good as it was in front of the $80 mic that was in that person's hand, that artist's hand.
Sometimes it's not about what you have, it's about how you utilize it.
And how you capture it. Because it's about capturing. It's not about necessarily how perfect it sounds. And that's why a lot of the old records aren't perfect. I could put any Rolling Stone record on and I could show you 10 places where he's flat singing. Who cares? It's Mick Jagger. Just sound. Same with Springsteen.
Right.
You know, it's amazing, but it's because it's the emotion that's just more part of than the perfectness of it, perfection of it.
Of course. Now, I understand you didn't just record artists, you helped shape them to who they are today. What do artists misunderstand about development today?
The work. It's a lot of work.
Expound.
It cracks me up. Some bands I work with, they go, well, we practice 2 nights a week. Well, I mean, if you really want to make it in this business, you got to practice every day.
Right.
Like every day. And there's no plan B. Whenever I see an artist with a plan B, they always end up on the plan B.
Yeah, because you was never really confident in your plan A in the first place.
It sounds weird, but it's really true. And I can just go by the bands that I worked with that became really big, which is there were a lot of them. And a lot of them were like always there, always working, always writing, always performing, always doing something. It wasn't like from 6 to 10, on Tuesday, we're going to rehearse. It wasn't any of those kind of things whatsoever.
Because artistry is a continuous process, basically. When you wake up to when you go to sleep, is always going, and you're always inspired by your environment as well.
Absolutely, positively, and you should always be growing. So, you know, how can you grow if you just do it on Tuesdays? So that's what I'm trying to say.
You make it a chore versus actually making it something you love.
A life. It's got to be your life. It can't be a thing.
Right.
You know, it's not like it's a class. It's your life, and that's really the difference. So I would tell any new artist is you got to live, eat, and breathe it, man, because that's the only way it's going to happen.
Now, is there?
And that hasn't changed from the 30s to now. And that is not changed.
That's awesome. I like that. I like the way you put that. Now, let me ask you a question. And before we go back to artists, let's go back to engineering. Just one more question about that.
Sure.
What's one engineering rule that you intentionally break and why?
Well, that depends on what technology we're using. So in tape, I push the meters like crazy. And although you're supposed to push them, I push them like nuts. So that's a definite thing, that rule I break all the time when I cut with tape. With digital, the rule, like I'll do a lot of compression and EQ and a lot of treatment prior to even going to my DAW. So I don't usually just do volume into, and a lot of and people really kind of poo-poo that a little bit, because once you compress it and EQ it, then it's that way for good. But I feel that if you can get it sounding really good right going in, it can only get better.
Right, and then you have less to do on the back end, basically.
And your rough mixes sound better, and everything's just better. So I kind of do that a lot. And let's see, do a couple things. Let's see, what do I always break? Drum kit rules. I do a lot of weird things with drum kits, that kind of thing.
Gotcha. Now, going back to artists and artist development, right? How do you know when to push an artist versus when to get out of the way?
Well, again, that goes back to that psychology portion of it. And, producers have to be psychologists, but so do engineers. Because, they work hand in hand with a producer. And the thing is that there's a time and place for everything, so to speak. So you kind of want to, hold on a minute, sorry. I'm getting distracted here. What did Howie want? You have to do that question.
Okay.
I just got the...
We just want to keep
need,
running.
Question, I'm assuming you're recording.
Yes.
So, would playing the clap or small amp not be good now?
Right.
Okay.
Just that's not super isolated through
Yeah.
an amp.
All right.
Thanks.
You know what time you guys will be done by?
15 minutes.
Okay, no worries.
You can take it in my office or in the hallway.
I'm sorry, what?
Put it in the hallway.
Are you sure? You want me to move that around?
Yeah, I mean, it's just one at a time. It's not going to mess it up. Take it outside.
Okay.
Okay. Just let's run it back a little bit.
Sure.
How do you know when to push an artist versus when to get out of the way?
Well, it's the time to push an artist is typically the time when you're tracking. When you're trying to get the best out of them, the best take out of them. And again, some of it's sleight of hand, so to speak, meaning, let's just try one more time. Let's just, you can push somebody without, come on, you got to do it. There's ways of pushing people
guidance,
hey, let's just try one more time, and just blame it on yourself. You know what? I kind of maybe messed up a little. Maybe I got a crackle or something. It's make something up or something if you have to, just to make them feel comfortable. Hey, that was really good. Try it again. I got it. Don't worry. It's all good. But I just want to have another one. That's a way to push somebody without even knowing that they're being pushed.
Right.
A lot of times though too is you want to do the pre-production with an artist so you understand some of the issues prior to actually recording them. That's a big deal. So if you know that, say, the drummer struggles, then maybe you work with that drummer prior to that session so that drummer's prepared, so that when you need him, you're actually pushing him there at the rehearsal prior to the session. That's where you're pushing the person, not really necessarily when they're tracking. So in other words, you really want to prepare each individual, and of course you know the band, so you should be able to tell the weaknesses and the strengths. So obviously you hone in on the strengths and build up the weaknesses. And so whatever it takes to do that, that's part of pushing an artist, and not necessarily at the session at that time. Now there are times when you have to do that, and that gets tricky, because it's a fine line between push and then getting somebody pissed off.
Right.
So you have to have that. And again, it goes back to, being calm at the time. Even though you're pushing them, you're not freaking out. Or sometimes you freak out just to get them all excited. Come on, let's go, let's do it. You know what I mean? All right, we're going to do it this one time. That kind of thing too. So again, you're the coach. You're as much of a coach as a producer. You take your if the producer's in a room and you're not producing, you're engineering, you're taking your cue off of the producer, and then you're disseminating that maybe to the band. Maybe the producer might be just talking to the guitar player, but they might not be talking to the drummer. So while you're fixing the microphone, you're going, hey man, this really, it's a click loud enough for you? Is everything okay? Like that kind of thing. Or the violinist, can you hear all the players? Or is your headphone off good so you can hear the other player? You know, whatever it may be.
Right.
So they're the kind of things that you kind of have to think about.
Right. But sometimes, you know how they have that saying that you can lead a horse to water, but
Sure.
you can't force them to drink. At what point do you get off the ride?
Well, you kind of know that pretty quickly.
Okay.
Because you can also watch the energy of the artist. And as their energy drains, you know you're not getting much more.
Right.
And you know you can see that.
Gotcha.
You know, it's just like a basketball player, like any sports person, you can see when they're shot.
Right. Makes sense.
Like, dude, you're tired tomorrow.
Makes sense. So what's the hardest truth you've ever had to tell an artist?
Well, it depends. If it was a band, sometimes I would have to, not do the gig or not use one of their musicians because their musicians wouldn't be good enough. So that would be a hard thing to tell somebody.
That makes sense. What about in studio?
Yeah, well, the hardest thing is you're not cutting it. You know what I mean? So, and it's not like you would want to maybe publicly announce that, but you might want to say, okay, that's cool, and then just move on, and then later on, in confidence, say, we should try something else.
Right.
Again, it's not about like, any kind of big picture, small picture, you're in charge, you're not in charge, that kind of idea. It's really just like, what can you get at? Like, you kind of know, and once you do it enough, you really can tell. Even when they walk in, what kind of mood and thing. So that's why that pre-production, that preparing the artist is a big deal. Just helps the session go smoother.
Gotcha. And that kind of ties back into artist or talent development as well. If you know what tools to give them and what they can expect, and make sure you hone in and practice those skills like a test, basically.
Exactly.
Studying homework, then it goes smoother later on down the line.
No doubt about it. And you want to maximize your time in the studio. So you don't want to be learning, practicing, hoping. You know what I mean? You want to have all that stuff kind of worked out ahead of time.
Gotcha.
Or as much as possible. You'll never have everything worked out ahead of time, but you'll want as much so that you can get through the easy stuff, so you can give time for the creative stuff.
Makes sense. When Things Fall Apart earned a Grammy nomination, did it change how the industry treated you or how you treated the industry?
No, it totally changed how I was treated by the industry. Yeah, I definitely arrived at that point for sure. And I had obviously it was, like the 10-year overnight kind of thing. But, I've been doing it for 15 years prior to that. So it wasn't like I just started and like I was already had a studio for 10 years and all that stuff. So I was already in the thick of engineering and producing and all that. So that was cool. It was great. It really changed. It really helped a lot. Yep. It really changed my whole trajectory for sure.
And that's a key point too, like especially with, up and coming producers or engineers or even artists, nothing that's worth having happens overnight.
Oh,
so
no.
you really have to put the grind into it. Is that something that you would convey to others coming up in this current generation or future generations?
Yeah, look, I'm my age and I've just built 2 Dolby Atmos rooms. People don't even know what Dolby Atmos is. And I've been mixing that for 2 years, 3 years now. So it's like I'm all about advancing technology and all about learning about that stuff. But I'm also all about knowing who Marvin Gaye is and who James Jamerson is and who the Swampers are and why does the Memphis horn sound different than the Motown horn sound. Like all those things are important and all those things are valuable, from immersive audio mixing to, Muscle Shoals.
So AI can mix records now, so let's go there. What can AI never replace about a real engineer?
Well, because how are you going to get your own guitar sound? Start there. Like every rock band that you hear it's the lead singer and the lead guitar player, right? I mean, I
Right.
don't know many others that don't have the cool lead singer and the cool guitar player, right? And every one of those cool guitar players, Slash and all those people, they have their own sound. That Eddie Van Halen. Without Eddie Van Halen, you're not going to have Van Halen, right?
Right.
So Sonos, or whatever, what they call Sonos, I guess it is? Suno. So Suno, you put your song into there, that's their guitar sound. That's not your guitar sound. That's their arrangement. That's not your arrangement.
Mm-hmm.
I just judged this company, West Coast Songwriters Association out of L.A. I judged some songs the other day, and one of them was done by Sonos, but I didn't know it ahead of time. So I said, dude, the arrangement's too long, third verse you don't need, cut this out, do that. Oh, I just put it in Sonos. I said, well, you know, it gives you a song, but it doesn't give you a great arrangement or your own sound or your own identity. It just gives you a song. So I guess it's okay,
Do you
but it's not really real.
understood? Do you feel as though that man-made produce records or songs have more depth and soul than AI-produced music?
Oh, of course. Well, just for the very reason I just said, because you're getting your own individual stuff, you know? Like a lot of that, the timbre of your voice, the tone of your acoustic guitar, the Rhodes or a Wurlitzer or whatever you're going to use, all those things make up your sound. So if that's given to you, there's not a lot of creativity that's coming out of it, and those individual little pieces are what makes something that's unique. And that's what gets people excited, and that's what sells things. But if it's generic, it's generic. And those records that are going to come out of AI, sure, some of them are cool, really cool. But, you know, it's just like anything else.
It's just that spark of life that a human hand gives to the music that AI couldn't possibly replicate, you would say?
Well, if you think about it now, a lot of, like, you know how music is cyclic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So right now we're in that cycle where things are starting to sound the same, right? So there's a lot of things that sound the same. Why does it sound the same? Well,
Same templates.
yeah, everybody's using the same plugins. Everybody's using the same logic. Everybody's using the same samples, the same loops, the same stuff. Back in the day, you were different studios, different sounds. Everything was different, right? So now a lot of things are the same. So we're getting into that cycle again where, so now when you have an AI thing, it kind of sounds the same. It kind of sounds in the same line of things. So it's okay. But, you know, is it Jimi Hendrix? Is it Adele? Is it that kind of thing? I don't think so.
Gotcha. Now, do you see AI as a threat, a tool, or a filter that exposes who really has taste?
Tool.
Gotcha.
I think it's a great tool. Just like recording to tape's a tool. Recording to your laptop's a tool. You know, using a certain mic, they're all tools. But you're the one who's driving the ship.
Makes sense. What advice would you give engineers using AI today? Engineers using AI today without losing the most important part of their artistry?
I think using AI is cool to get you out of a rut, maybe, a writing rut. It's probably cool to get you a couple of lyrics that you might not think of. I would use it, not lean on it. That's what I would suggest. I
Right.
would use it sparingly, and maybe it's especially good to break maybe a writer's block or something like that. Hey, AI, here's my song. You know, what do you think? Give me a couple ideas, you know. That is, but if you say, like, write this song for me, here's the title, I mean, that's kind of stupid. But, you know, I think it's a tool like anything else, you know. It's like, what are you going to not use a triggered kick drum because it's not a real kick drum? I mean, come on. It's, you know, it's part of your sound, so it's okay. But you just don't want to use it all the time.
Gotcha. If you were starting today, would AI accelerate your career or slow down your development?
Oh, I think it would accelerate it. I think there's such an advantage now for knowledge, which never existed back in the day. I mean, there wasn't any colleges at all that you could go to in the 80s, early 80s, you know. Now there's colleges like this, you know, a lot of places. It's like the and YouTube and learning how to play. It's so much easier now than it was. I mean, I remember
Everything
being
is so instantaneous, like right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's nuts. So it's like, there's a distinct advantage. The only disadvantage, like it was, like in the beginning, it was like, well, the internet. The advantage of the internet is that now everybody can write music.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the problem is everybody did. You know what I mean? And now you have a billion. You have what 700,000 records released every day on Spotify. I think it's that many. I think it's crazy amount of records every day that's released on Spotify.
That's a lot. How do you filter through all of that just to get to that one timeless and classic
exactly.
hit,
So
basically?
so you have the advantage of being able to do all this for low cost and ability, but at the same time, there's such a flood of things where back in the day it was there was gatekeepers that stopped all that from happening.
Mm-hmm.
Good or bad or indifferent, that's what was happening. So that's really not the case right now. So now it's, whoever blows up on social media wins.
Right. I guess every era has its pros and cons,
Sure.
basically.
Absolutely.
But we do need to get back to the beauty of what the originality of music actually was. So let me ask you this question. What is your advice for the next generation? Especially with, the use of AI or having instant access to tools and resources that doesn't necessarily reflect back into.
Well, more than ever, education is a big deal. It really, truly is. Like to know as much about your craft as possible is so freaking important. And unlike back in the day, now you have to be everything. Typically, you had publicists. You had a manager, or they were at least out there that you could contact. Now you got to do so much on your own before you can even get to it. A manager won't even touch you until you have so much happening on social media, so much happening on your Facebook, so many gigs. And the other thing is play live. Play live.
Meet your audience.
There is how should I say it? There's nothing can replace playing live.
Mm-hmm.
Because playing live is where everything happens. It engages your audience. It gives you the ability to gauge your songs to an audience. It gives you experience so you can learn how to perform. Playing live is so important. And it's really the 1-2 punch. If you think that you're just going to release records, not play anywhere, and make it somehow, that's cool, but that's a lot harder than if you're out there slugging it with gigs. And it's better that you're out there with gigs because it just teaches you how to be an artist.
Right.
And it teaches you how to work with, how to interact and, how to perform in front of 5 people or 500 people.
Right.
Like all those things are very important.
It's kind of like one of those laws. They say an object in motion stays in motion, right?
Right.
So as long as you get the motion going, then you build up the momentum.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I say that all the time. If you don't play live and you're an artist trying to make it, you're missing half of your potential.
Right. Makes sense. At this stage of your career, what excites you more? Breaking new artists, new technology, or teaching the next generation?
Well, now teaching the next generation and new technology. I'm still always into new technology. So that's why I'm saying I'm doing a lot with immersive audio right now, which is really, really, really exciting to me. Once you start working in that, you never want to listen to a stereo pair of headphones again. So I'm pretty excited about that. And, teaching all these students, it's great. Like this, and watching them learn and, sharing, what am I going to do with the knowledge? I want to pass it on.
Gotcha. So I have a couple more questions
Sure.
for you, and then we will wrap up. What's the next evolution of David Ivory that people aren't expecting? Yeah, any little snippets for us?
Well, I was thinking of a couple things that I wanted to do in podcast world. So I don't know. I'm trying to mold together some ideas right now.
That would be exciting to see for sure.
Yeah, because I have a lot. I know a lot of people and been through a lot, and I'm thinking it might be a good idea to put them all together and have some conversations about what we did, some of the things coming up, that kind of thing.
Nice. When it's all said and done, what do you want engineers to say you changed about this industry?
I don't know if I changed anything about this industry. I just, I think I helped contribute to the neo soul sound of Philadelphia. That's for sure, and that's what I'm very proud of.
We gotta bring that back too, by the way.
Huh?
We gotta bring that back too, by
Yeah,
the way. Wink,
I
wink.
know. Well, it's coming. I think there's. I've just got a couple people emailing me with some stuff. Man, it's like really neo soul stuff, and I guess that's why they're sending it to me. But it's. I'm just. I'm just happy that I was a part of that whole evolution that took place, because that was a very exciting time in the '90s in Philadelphia. That's for sure.
Wonderful. Now, just two more questions, and I'm going to wrap up for you. At this stage of your career and the success that you have seen, what excites you most about the future, not only for yourself, but just for the industry in whole?
I think music now is so ubiquitous. It is like everywhere all the time. And I think the opportunities, even though there's a lot of people in making music, there's so much more opportunities for music. Like, I mean, there's 800 TV stations. That means there's TV shows. That means there's all these things need music. All this YouTube, all of, we're teaching a lot of students video along with audio because they're so merged together. So I feel like the boom, the video, audio coming together. Soon there'll be, holographs. I mean, I can see all that happening soon. 3D imaging is happening. I mean, there's just so much on the horizon. I think that, and all of it will involve music in some way. All of it, which is pretty exciting, I think.
Mm-hmm. Now, here's the hot mic question. Okay, you ready for it?
Okay.
All right, cool. If you could give one uncomfortable truth to every engineer watching right now, what would that be? Like just straight what it is, basically. No filler, no fluff. This is what it is.
That's a crazy question. That's a crazy question. This is going to be a funny thing. Write shit down.
Boom.
Write shit down. You know what? Like, who was on that session? Who played guitar on that session in May 2015? Do you know that? Was that done in your studio? If it was, you should have a record of it. Write shit down.
Nice. And speaking of studios, how did you manage to come about creating such a beautiful space here?
Well, the funny thing is I live a mile from here. In fact, we should probably do some B-roll maybe over there. But I live a mile from here, and before this building was built in 2005, I think. So prior to that, I helped develop the Drexel Music Program with Barry Addix in Millersville. He's in Millersville now. So that was in 2000. So I would teach at Drexel for a while, besides doing all my other stuff, my production and engineering. And then I stopped that because it was really far away and inconvenient for my gig. So then I was here, and then Mike Kelly, who I knew was the coordinator here, and he would bring his class to my studio because they didn't have studios. They had some computers and stuff. This is early on. So then they would go to my studio, and that's kind of how it connected with Monco. And then later on, 2009, 2010, the program started growing a little bit, so they asked me to teach. So I was an adjunct professor because that's the only time I had. Just once in a while I could teach, right? And then in 2016, they wanted to hire me full time and asked me what if they wanted to do a big program, what would it take? So after after I picked them up off the floor for how much money they were going to spend, and they said okay, and then they said okay, then they had to pick me up off the floor. Like, really? You're going to do that? So I designed this room, and I wanted to be like you walk into LA or New York or any kind of place there is, so that the students get a real experience of what a professional studio is like. Even with the green room in the back with the windows and all that, that's for students, and if they can't be in a session, they can be in there and see what's going on and not be part of it. Like, all these things are designed for teaching, and this room is like acoustically perfect. I designed it with WSDG, Walter Stork Design Group, which is an amazing company, and they're out of New York. So it's acoustically crazy, and the best gear, and I got a very good combination of old and new gear. As you can see, this is an Atmos room, but yet we still have 1960 Pultec tube EQs. So this room kind of encapsulates the entire audio, cool audio.
The history of audio and its progression.
The whole school from 60s to now is in this room. That's why we have like the best 24-track ever made, the best 2-track ever made. We still record on tape. Because tape's important. Tape's a big deal.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with it. And for certain things, it's the best you can do. So it's good for the students who are all, all understand that.
And then final question for closing. If there's anything in your career that you had to change or do over, what would you say that would be?
Take more piano lessons.
Piano.
I should have took more piano lessons.
Gotcha.
I'm going back actually now. I'm actually going to do next semester. I'm actually going to take some piano lessons.
Nice. We got David Ivory as a student.
Well, I can
of
play,
music
but
again.
I can't read.
Gotcha.
Piano. So I can read some guitar. I can read chords and all, but I can't read. I want to try to learn to read a little bit. So that's my next musical goal. See if it happens. We'll see.
You got this. You got this. Is there anything that you would like to impart on our viewers before we close out today's session?
Well, as Art Linkletter said, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans, number one. And number two, just work your ass off. Because hard work beats anything.
And that's why this conversation matters. David Ivory, thank you for giving us your insights and your truth.
My pleasure.
This is Music Mondays at the Lab, and see you soon.
All right.
Hey everyone, if you're enjoying Music Mondays at the Lab, go ahead and smash that like button, share it, and hit subscribe so you never miss a beat.